Good morning. I'm Jonathan Alexander, the Director of Public Policy for Liberty Counsel. There's an agenda which seeks to establish a connection between the LGBT special interests and the rights of Black Americans, the rights that have been won from slavery through the Civil Rights era. This is a false and intellectually dishonest comparison, and it shames the legacy of the African American victims of racism, whose lives and whose stories have been etched in history. I was fortunate to grow up in Massachusetts and lived about 40 minutes away from Plymouth Rock. This physical reminder of the religious liberty and the conscience-based freedoms that our country was based on. Religious liberty and Judeo-Christian principles are at the foundation of our heritage. I learned my heritage in elementary and high school, where my teachers were contemporaries of Martin Luther King, his best friends when he was in Boston. So we were not only instructed thoroughly in the Civil Rights Act and the movement, but we also heard about the conversations behind closed doors, the prayer circles and preparations for the marches, the resolve that the men and women of the Civil Rights era had. Many in this group here today have spoken how they still remember what the sky looked like on days where they would march, what the air smelled like, how their feet felt on the continuous strive towards equal treatment under the law. A journey then that was hundreds of years in the making towards a goal of equal treatment, a goal that in many ways is still not yet achieved. So you can imagine the offense when one hears that his history as a young Black man, his racial identity, his cultural identity, his status is being compared to and co-equal to the claims of someone who identifies first by their sexual orientation. When he hears that being gay is the new Black. It's not only an outrageous comparison, but it is illogical. There's never been a group in history other than the Blacks in America who have ever been enslaved, sold as property, had their communities destroyed, even with government permission. All this based on the immutable, unchanging characteristic of being Black, having fleecy locks and Black complexion, not being able to forfeit nature's claim. Not based on a feeling or a desire, but based on skin color. My Black skin is not something that I can choose to act on or not act on. It's simply who I am. There's no action that I can engage in. There's no morality to one's skin color. And thankfully, our society has rejected discrimination on the basis of skin color. To reject that evil of slavery and to remedy the bigoted mandates of the Jim Crow South, society has placed a system of laws, public accommodation laws, that were established in order to correct how Blacks were treated in the public square. These public accommodation laws were established to ensure that African Americans had access to shelters, to hotels, to restaurants, to businesses on the very route to ensure civil rights. The standards there were also based on an immutable characteristic, an unchangeable nature, such as race is. Even this court has said that such laws are reasonable responses to the evidence of a given group has been a target of discrimination. But the focal point of this law, of these laws, must be to remain to prohibit discrimination against individuals. So it is an utter shame that laws like this that were once used as a shield to protect African Americans are now used as a sword to force good people like Jack Phillips to violate their religious beliefs, to force them to create custom artwork to celebrate same-sex marriages. It is wrong in any instance to co-opt a business or an organization's message in order to favor the state's preferred message. In Jack's case, the state has improperly expanded the definition of public accommodation. So now those laws are the source of, instead of the remedy for discrimination. This LGBT agenda has overrun religious liberty at every turn. And coupled with these laws, this agenda only seeks to silence any dissenting view. And so I support Jack Phillips. I support Jack Phillips as he will rightly serve everyone, but should never have to violate his religious convictions. He should never have to leave his beliefs behind when he enters into the public square. I support Jack Phillips because it is an utter offense to use the false comparison of the LGBT agenda as being akin to the Black civil rights movement to punish the good and decent Americans who, because of their conscience, cannot participate or endorse a same-sex marriage.